Right, your host today. Super excited to have my buddy on, Nick Stagge. Nick, good to see you, man.
Stagge, Nick Stagge with an E.
Stagge with
No
an E.
one gets it right. No sweat, man.
Well, there you
It's
go.
a weird one.
If nobody takes anything else from the podcast, it's how to pronounce your name correctly, right?
That's right, dude. It's a crazy story. Ancestors like fled Germany in the late 1900s,
Okay.
and early 1900s, late 1900s, early 1900s, and started a whole new life. And we can't track it back any further, but it's part of why I'm so convinced that I'm likely the rightful heir of the Neuenstein Castle. So my life mission is to reclaim the throne one day.
Well, it's good. We got something to relate to, right? We're both Europeans at heart.
Yes,
that's probably why we bonded, right?
There we go. That and our love of football.
Yeah,
real football.
Good point. Soccer, I should say, for the audience. They're probably the American, but yeah, big football / soccer fans for sure, man. Well, cool. Excited to have you on today, man. As everybody's aware, this podcast is really to go over businesses that also have a charitable element to it, and really exploring, why the founders created them, and why having a social cause attached is kind of so important. So I'd love to start there with you, talk about, who you are, your background, and really We.Are.Mind as well.
Yeah. My background is I turned 40 this year, and my career has been all over the place, from retail to working for brands like Skullcandy and GoPro, to working for tech companies, working for media agencies, and even starting my own consulting firm. So it's been kind of a wild ride.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that's been consistent is, since I've been 10 years old, I've struggled with anxiety and depression. It's been something that's been a real trial in my life. It's something that's been very tangible, and it's a little bit like being tossed overboard, and you're in the ocean, and sometimes the waves, you can see them coming and you can kind of prepare for impact. Other times you have no idea. You're swimming and you turn around and the water just engulfs you.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience. My whole life is trying to see the waves coming as far out as possible, but it's certainly not always been the case. And it's because of those experiences with anxiety and depression that I decided to start Mind.
Yeah, and I think I think it's such an important point to note, because I think what's becoming, I don't want to use the word accepted, but it's becoming more prevalent in society of people admitting to those problems, right? I mean, I think we've spoken about, I've had anxiety problems over the years, and I think one of the things that I'm starting to like in companies like yourself is actually making it acceptable to talk about those experiences, right? So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, obviously the shift in society, I'd say, for it being like not such a taboo issue anymore. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that's kind of changing?
I think it's one of those things that one person does it, and a second does it, and a third, and all of a sudden it's this multiplier effect. I mean, I look back even 5 years ago. I was a VP of marketing. I had a great team, a great leadership team, and yet I didn't really feel comfortable letting people know that I struggle with anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those things that I thought, boy, if they think I have that battle, they're going to question whether or not I can lead a team. They're going to question my intent or my motives. And so I tried to hide it. And one of the things I did to manage my anxiety is I carried around poker chips, and I play with these poker chips. And it's kind of become this like joke, but it's a true story, that when people would ask me, yo, Nick, what's up with the poker chips? It was easier for me to just tell people, like, yeah, I've got a gambling problem. I legitimately told people I had a gambling problem for years, because that felt easier to talk about than, yeah, I struggle with anxiety.
100%.
So
yeah,
it's something we all have faced.
For sure. And actually, like I've got a similar story. I remember, and this must have been like before I moved to America. So I was head of operations at Heathrow Airport, and I remember posting something on LinkedIn to the effect of, I think it was maybe Mental Health Awareness Month, and I remember somebody close to me actually telling me you should delete that because how people are going to perceive you as it being a weakness, right? So I think there's a lot of relatability there for me in terms of those types of experiences.
What are your thoughts, or
I'd love to get a bit more of an overview on mind, what you're hoping to accomplish, and ultimately kind of what it's doing for mental health in Utah, but presumably your goal is for the world as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I'll go back. I did a little bit like you did, where one day on LinkedIn, I just decided like, whatever, I'm gonna share this. And I made a post about my struggles with anxiety and depression, and it felt very risky,
Okay.
and it felt very vulnerable. And that post blew up, like went viral, 1 million+ views. And that added to my anxiety and stress. Really, oh my gosh, so many people see this and
Yeah.
they know it. But I'll tell you what's crazy, Ben, is I didn't get a single negative comment on the post or in my DMs. It was all positive and supporting and loving. And that like kickstarted this idea, wait a second, we can step up, we can stand up and speak out about our stories, and people are supportive and loving and caring, and they don't even necessarily have to provide a solution. In fact, when they try to provide a solution, and like, hey, have you tried this, have you tried that, do you do blah blah blah, you're almost like, look, stop, you don't have to solve my problem, I just want you to understand where I'm coming from and what I'm dealing with, and have empathy. And when people exercise that level of empathy, it does a whole bunch. So fast forward after that post a couple of years, I'm at VidArmy, and the founder of VidArmy, Levi, and I are talking about our struggles and where we're at. And we're like, maybe there needs to be an organization that's not about solving the problem. It's not about giving solutions. It's not about even just like raising money as a 501c3, but maybe it's a company that's just focused on encouraging people to speak up. And then it's encouraging people to, the other side of that conversation is really hard. When someone comes to you and says, I struggle with anxiety, the first responses are usually, I'm so sorry, or wow, that sucks, or have you tried this?
Yeah.
And instead, what we're trying to do is just respond with, thanks for sharing. Like, that's really brave of you. Tell me more. And so we had talked about this for a while, and we spun up a company, the paperwork, and we had a logo made, but we hadn't really done anything with it. And one day in January, we're like, you know what, F it, we should probably post something on our Mind LinkedIn account. There were 2 followers, me and Levi, and maybe that'll kick us in the pants to launch a website and start executing against the vision we have for this. And we posted it really as like an internal kick in the pants. Well, that post also went viral and just took off. And it really helped us realize, oh my gosh, the people are ready for this. People want to talk about it. They want to have a vehicle for it. So let's go. And our mission is really quite simple. It's just to pull down the stigma that you can't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And by talk about it, we mean share or hear and listen the other side of it. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're just trying to incite conversation.
So it's really just a community of openness where people can feel comfortable just explaining the troubles they're going through with no judgment only, right?
Amen, man. No, I think I love that you said that. It's no judgment. It's like we all have our own battles, whether it's mental wellness or it's something physically or financially. Like, there's no reason to place judgment on people. Let's just search to understand and offer love and support. I think you and I joked about this before. I've shared this example, but one of my all-time favorite movies is White Men Can't Jump. And Woody Harrelson's laying in bed with his girlfriend, and she tells him she's really thirsty, wants a glass of water. And he gets up and he brings her a glass of water, and she gets pissed. And he's like, you said you wanted water. Like, here's your water. And she's like, no, I want you to ask me, what does it feel like to thirst? Like, tell me about being thirsty. Tell me about wanting a glass of water. And as soon as people realize, oh, I don't have to give someone a glass of water, I don't have to solve the problem, it completely changes the conversation and the dynamic, and it makes it more approachable to be open with your story.
And it's almost like, I think the way I like to think about it, it's almost like collective counseling. And what I mean by that is, through other people sharing that they're going through stuff, it doesn't normalize it, but it makes it easier, right? I think there is, with mental health, one of the things that you think you're very unique in the sense that the problem that you're going through, it doesn't affect anybody else, right? Like, I must be the only one that has anxiety. Why am I different? Why is it? And I think what you're providing there is a community for people to actually think there's tons of people like me, right? And I can get through this. Is that kind of right in what I'm saying there?
Oh, Ben, it's spot on. It is this because we have a stigma around talking about it, you begin to feel isolated, and the walls start coming in closer and closer, and you start separating yourself from everyone else, and you just don't believe that anyone can relate and that anyone can understand. And on the off chance you do share, people are pandering. It's like, right, sorry, that sucks. Hey, have you seen a therapist? Like, come on, you don't have to do that. So despite us feeling like we're isolated, if we just break down those walls, you look across the table and you're like, they get it, or they don't totally get it, but they have their own thing, and I can relate to that in a unique way. So yeah, it's really just, it's about the conversation, and it's about recognizing the similarities between each one of us. We all have some level of this.
Well, it's interesting actually that we're talking about this today, because I don't know if you read the article about Naomi Osaka, the tennis player. She just withdrew from, I believe it was the French Open tennis tournament, and she gave the reasoning being because of her mental health. Like, she felt very anxious going in front of the media and some of the questions that she was being asked. And I think that's the point that people should probably take away, is the fact that, like you said, you were CMO or VP of marketing, right? There's people that are professional athletes that are going through this. So it really does affect everybody from every walk of life, right? And I think that in itself should give people some calmness, knowing that regardless of where you're at, it affects everyone, right? It affects everyone. So I thought that was pretty timely. I was actually reading that before I jumped on.
It is super timely, and you know, you have to think about, she's made this decision, and she's come out and talked about it. She's probably felt this way a long time, and the fact that she's opened up, the level of courage and bravery that she is showing right now, and the example that she is serving to so many people, I don't think we should gloss over the significance of that. It's massive, and it's because of people like her that the next person is willing to stand up and say, yeah, I have my thing too, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm less capable. Doesn't mean I'm less good. You know, I can have anxiety. I can struggle with mental illness. It doesn't mean I'm not a happy person.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm not a successful person. It doesn't mean I'm not capable. So it really is one of those things that I think talking is, it's not the solution, but it's the beginning of real change. And it's something that's going to take more and more people talking about, and not just once, but talking about over and over and over again.
And so I suppose just to, I suppose, build on this, one of the reasons this podcast is actually explore the business aspect of things like this as well, right? So you're grounded in a cause that matters to you and has impact on people. How do you balance, or how do you kind of structure that when you're also trying to run a business, right? Like how do they operate? How do they intersect? Like I'd love just to get your opinion on that, and maybe how it differs to a traditional business, let's say, that doesn't have such a key goal associated with it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm lazy. It's really there's a lot that goes into starting a 501c3 and building a nonprofit. So instead, we spun up just a regular old business, and um, we are taking any of our profits, and we're not paying ourselves. We have very minimal operating expenses, like a $30 a month Shopify site, and then we're running direct to garment printing, so we only buy apparel when we sell the apparel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally it. We're no ads, no nothing. So any profit that comes in, we're turning around, and we've partnered with Zenovate. We're just cutting them a check to buy bulk therapy sessions, and then we're working with Zenovate to find people who uh, want therapy but can't afford it, and we're just giving it to them, and we're saying, like, here, go have therapy for a year. We don't pretend to be professionals, trained. We're not certified in anything, but we believe that therapy is just another form of communication,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a way we can give back. So the goal with Mind, honestly, Ben, is that I never ever take a dime from it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see this as something that I ever want to make money off of. I just want to use the profit to give back to people. I've got other companies that I'm running and working in, to provide for me and my family. To me, this cause is bigger than whether or not I can put a few bucks in my pocket or not. So I might be out in the night, but that's the mission, and that's the way that we operate the business today.
I love that, man. And I think obviously it's fantastic. I suppose another question to you in terms of when you look at your other businesses that are drawing profit, what are like some of the things that you get from Mind? Like in terms of, you said you're not taking a profit, but give me a few examples of either, people you've helped, or any things that kind of stand out to you and you think, man, that this is way cooler than any sum of money could ever give me in terms of just being a human, right?
Yeah, I think more than anything, it's when you get a text message or a LinkedIn DM or a late night phone call, and somebody just says thank you. Um, it's rewarding, and they deserve to have a voice, and they deserve to be heard. And if we can help provide that, whether directly or indirectly, that that is everything to me. And sometimes that comes with a heavy responsibility. I share this not I share this with absolute humility, but a month or so ago, I had a phone call middle of the night, somebody telling me, "Hey, tonight's my last night. Like, I'm drinking. I've got a gun with one bullet in it, and you know, it's really uh, scary situation." And for me, so vulnerable, because I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do, and I'm telling this person, "Hey, let me three-way call suicide prevention line," and they're like, "You do that, like it's done." Nope, I don't want that. And so I didn't try to provide any solutions. I just listened, and um, they ended up passing out, which was a little scary because I didn't know if they passed
Yeah.
out or not. I didn't hear
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah.
but now I talk with this person uh, every couple of days, and they are still battling and struggling, but they're making progress. And it's so good to know that we can be there for one another, and we can help each other. And um, that by far is the most important thing that we can do. And if Mind existed forever and it only helped that one person,
To be worth it.
it's
Yeah.
good enough.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, that story in itself and is pretty chilling, but in the way that you've just described, actually, it's the whole purpose of that community, right? Being able to talk to somebody and do it without judgment. But like I said, man, that's a crazy story. That's
Yeah.
a crazy story, man.
It's
But
a great person going through really tough times, feeling alone, feeling isolated. And I think at the end, and talking with them more since, just realizing like I'm not alone.
yeah,
Even if there's one person who's willing to pick the phone up, I'm not alone. And that can mean a lot. And thinking really grandiose, if Mind can do that at scale for lots of people and lots of stories that will never be talked about
mm-hmm.
openly or publicly, great. Like,
Talk to me.
great.
Talk to me
That's
about,
what it's about.
so you touched on it a little bit there, like the grandiose vision for Mind. Talk to me a little bit about that in terms of potential plans or where you would like to see the community kind of going, I suppose.
Yeah. Right now we sell apparel as a means to raise money and give money to Zenivate or others. But I don't see us as an apparel company. It's not like
No, it's just a means to an ends almost, right? Like,
yeah. And part of it is there's this community element. We kicked off, and one of the things I think that really helped Mind kind of take off is we said, look, the thought bubble emoji. In fact, I think I'm wearing one of the bracelets, right? But like this thought bubble emoji, you put it on social, it says I'm a mental health advocate. I'm here. You don't even have to say it publicly, but like you just know what that means. It's a
you've
little.
got someone, yeah.
We're hoping it becomes something like the rainbow emoji.
Well, like the Live Strong bracelets. Remember those bracelets back in the day, right? I remember they went crazy viral, like all over the UK and Europe and wherever else.
And we're seeing this thought bubble emoji pop up all over social media, and you just know, like, okay, that's an ally. That's someone I could reach out to if I wanted, and so we want to create these visual indicators that say, yes, I'm a mental health advocate. Whether it means I struggle with mental well-being or not, I'm an advocate. And part of that is for everyone who's posting on social media about it and tagging Mind and using the thought bubble emoji, we're getting so many people reaching out privately, texting, DMs, and they're like, hey, I'm a mental health advocate. I struggle with mental health myself, but I don't feel comfortable putting that on social media. It's a little bit like your story with when you posted on when you were at Heathrow, right? Like, because the stigma exists, and people are like, am I going to be able to get a job if a future employer knows I have some level of struggle with mental health? So with that in mind, we are exploring ways that we can bring the community together in a non-public public setting, if that even makes sense.
No, it does. Yeah.
Call it a Slack group or a Patreon channel or what have you, a place where people can come in and just know anyone who's on this platform is here because they're a mental health advocate. And so there's a level of safety. And we don't, as we've talked about it, we don't want data will be completely locked up. It will never be sold, shared, given out. People can come in anonymously, right? Like we want this to just be where people congregate to support each other with mental health. And we've talked, maybe there's ways we monetize that and then we use the money to give more people therapy. And there's also thoughts like, look, maybe the value is not in giving people free therapy. It's just in having a community that's free, that's publicly not public,
So
and
that
we
collective
just do
therapy.
that.
Yeah, yeah, I get you, man. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think ultimately as well, and we talked about it right at the start, but the idea of collective therapy is an interesting one. Like not having necessarily a professional to go and speak to, but somebody that you know and trust, and you can kind of rely on. Sometimes I feel like that's just as beneficial, right? In terms of sharing and stuff like that. But there's probably a ton of other, if you do decide to monetize it. I think the interesting part about what you've built and the social media presence that you guys have built is you now have a pre-built community. So say if you did want to do a fundraising event, whether that be a run or I know we talked about, because of our love of soccer, like an organized soccer match, right, with sponsors and stuff like that. I do think there's some real potential there from a fundraising perspective. And I mean, you look at a lot of the companies in Utah that are starting to become mental health advocates and care about their employees' well-being. I mean, you've got a pre-built community there as well, right? From a fundraising perspective.
Yeah, you're totally right, and those things to me feel great. You have people, a close friend of mine who was asked to remain anonymous, basically reached out to me and said, Nick, I want to buy apparel. How much do I need to buy to give someone free therapy for a year? And
Oh, all right. Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
it's this much, and he's like, great, placed an order. The product came, and then he was like, okay, let's give someone free therapy. And then he turned around and he donated the hoodies to people in need in Utah to finish out the
Double
cold
good,
weather.
man. Double good.
Like
Yeah.
incredible, right?
Yeah.
And there are people who really need the support and the help, but can't afford it. They're going through tough times, and even $5 a month, say if we were to build this community and it was a monthly subscription, like maybe that's too much. So because my goal is not to take any money from it, it changes the way I think about what we want to offer and how we want to offer it. And I love the idea of a free community, and then like this anonymous friend of mine, give when you can and give what you can. And we want to find a way to maybe facilitate that so people can help and funnel their monetary support in real meaningful ways. We've been able to work a deal with Zenovate where they give us an incredible discount. I mean, they basically sell us therapy for a year at cost. So Amelia and her team make no money on it, but they're doing it to give back to the community. And you love people like Amelia that think about it that way and are so willing to do the right thing.
For sure, and actually, that was going to be one of my questions. You mentioned Zenovate. Are there any other people that are doing things in this space that you'd recommend people checking out, or are doing cool things in terms of the mental health kind of space?
Yeah, for sure. There's so many. But Brock Rasmussen at Steely Hats is an absolute stud. Sawyer Norman at Keep On is great. James Hadlock at Blue Novus is doing really cool stuff. Trent Mono at Room Here is doing really cool stuff. We talked about Amelia at Zenovate. I mean, those are all Utah-based companies.
It's insane.
Christy Holt at Vibonics is putting technology in terms of like predicting mental health and I mean there's so many really smart, capable, giving people that are trying to move this forward. Matt Wonderly and Craig Hammond have a podcast called Founders Therapy, where they're interviewing founders and getting very real, deep, authentic stories about mental health to try to break the stigma. I mean, there's some cool things happening right now in the space.
Yeah, I mean that in itself should give, I suppose, should paint the picture that that the stigma is starting to change, right? And I suppose what I mean by that is there's a ton of companies that are approaching that from a business perspective, but also on the other side, there's obviously companies that have a need or a want for that kind of support or product, right? So I think that that should indicate at least a little bit around the stigma changing or at least improving, right?
Yeah, I have to recommend one other, which is Andy Heaton. He just launched a journaling app called Goldmind that we just wrapped up a collab with him
All right.
during the month of May. But like every day, almost you see really cool people like Andy doing new things and breaking this stigma. I mean, the work that the work that you're doing, Ben, and the way you're thinking about it it's inspiring.
Yeah, and I think that's probably something to note. And where my mind was going earlier, actually, I know I'm not going to plug my company, but what we're
Well, you
attempting.
should, because it's your company is doing great work.
Yeah,
It's making progress.
yeah. What we're attempting to do, I think, for people that are probably either new to the podcast or new to my company. My company is called Go Give, and ultimately, what we're attempting to do is to put social good into company sales and marketing processes. So instead of sending out um, swag, be it like mouse mats, USB sticks, everybody knows what, the kind of stuff that you get from trade shows. We're saying actually put that as an incentive to give back into that process. And where my mind goes with that, Nick, honestly, is like if you ever get to a stage of wanting to crowd fund for specific people, right? Like I'd love to talk to you about maybe embedding that into our product, because I think that would be one super cool, but also like you said, imagine a company sponsoring, instead of spending 2 grand on rubbish, hats, mouse mats, they could actually say, we got new business, but we also paid for 2 people to go through therapy for a year or whatever it may be, right? So I think it becomes interesting.
I just I love that. And the short answer is let's do it.
Yeah.
I mean, let's figure out a way to make that happen. Mind it is growing. We just brought on 2 new people who are donating their time and their skill sets. Logan Nicholson, he's in Idaho, currently works at Melaleuca, and he is looking at all the different ways we can build community and scale this in big, authentic ways. And then you have Kelsey Lammy out of Austin, and she works at UT, and her full-time role there is making sure that students at UT are mentally well and have resources. And she's incredible, right? And so she's helping us take whatever community kind of platform Logan is helping us create, and then she's adding this human element and resources and support to it. And it feels like the things that we're starting to push towards and that you're doing, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, the UT one is really interesting because I think my anxiety really kicked in actually when I was in my final year at college. I did a law degree, and it's weird, but at that age, man, it's the most stressful experience of anybody's life, I think, when you have that kind of on your back and you're worrying about that constantly. So again, when you talk about communities that I think need support, and again, don't necessarily feel comfortable either sharing with their friends or sharing with professionals, that is in my opinion, a fantastic community to go after and help, because if they can see other students on there that are struggling with similar issues, I mean, that could save lives, I think, honestly, legitimately. So
I think you're so right. And I feel incredibly blessed that Logan and Kelsey surfaced out of the woodworks and were like, hey, we have ideas on how we can help. We love the cause. We want to support it. And there's just so much good that can be done and needs to be done. So.
Yes, for sure, man. Well, final question before you go, man. I'd love to just get your answer to this, and I'm thinking of asking every guest this, so not to put you on the spot, but any businesses that don't align to causes currently, if they're for-profit businesses, what do you think are the things that they're missing out on, or the benefits that they can get from helping a cause, even in a profitable business that isn't necessarily just focused on giving back, so to speak?
I don't think there's a way to kind of lightly say this, but step up. do the right thing. And even if there is no financial benefit or marketing benefit, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Do it because it's the right thing to do. And if you need an excuse to do the right thing to do, like, I don't want to interact with you. I don't want to mess. I don't want to mess with a company like that. There's no reason you cannot find a way to give back to some cause, mental well-being, sex trafficking, racism, like whatever, right? Like, do something that hits you to the core, and do it because it's the right reason. And if you need motivation outside of that, I'm not going to be the one to give it to you.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, cool, man. This has been fun, and thanks for being so kind of raw. I think it helps. I think it helps everybody to hear people like you kind of talk through your experiences and ultimately what you've done and what you are doing for the community. I think everybody in Utah appreciates kind of what you and Levi are doing, and like you said, saving people on the way, man. Final word.
Hey, can I just say, because we haven't really talked a whole bunch about Levi, but that guy, he's incredible. He's absolutely incredible, and he's someone who I just feel so lucky to be able to call a friend and an ally, and to have started Mind with. And the guy's about as raw and real as it comes, and I just don't think you can find anybody more real than him. So
I love that.
He should be sitting.
Yeah, I know. That's my bad.
Next to me, having this. No, it was mine. I should have made that happen. But that guy, he's something else, and this isn't something that I started on my own. We did together, and he's a big reason why Mind is doing what we're doing today, and what we're trying to do in the future. So
love that. Yeah, great.
I need more than anything, I just need Levi to know that I love that guy.
That's good, man. I love that. Final thing, man. Let the audience know, where can they go? How can they help out? Just give us a few things about where we can find more information about Mind.
Yeah. Go to We.Are.Mind.org. You can find our website there. Hit us up on LinkedIn, We.Are.Mind. Those are really the two places we live and breathe and interact with people. And take 30 seconds and add the thought bubble emoji to your social profiles and let people know you're a mental health advocate.
Cool. All right, it's been fun, man. I appreciate your time.
Man, thank you so much for having me.
No,
I love what you're doing. I've certainly set a low bar for your next guest, but I'm excited to listen to these future podcasts as they come out. You're doing great work, Ben.
Cool. All right, Nick, you have a great rest of the day, man.